Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Market Insights with Linux, and welcome to this new video in this weekly update on NVIDIA. I wanted to do a full update on NVIDIA, which over the course of the last week, or I should say week and a half, it has been relatively bearish. I mean, we found resistance here at 185, which was and is a very strong resistance level. So it's not necessarily strange that we found resistance there. I mean, we also know that NVIDIA is under quite a lot of pressure, especially regulatory, and that's also damaging the business, literally, right? With their H20 sales missing from Q2 earnings and Q2 financials. However, this morning, or I think maybe yesterday already, but we actually got some news regarding that. That US licenses NVIDIA to export chips to China, official says. So this is data that was updated today. It's the news and the information we have surrounding this, which is pretty major, right? I mean, the H20 chips, if I remember correctly, like those missing from the Q2 earnings, or basically those chip sales not being there, I think they missed out on billions of revenue. That's of course to a company like NVIDIA. That doesn't mean that it's all over, but that's quite a lot of money, right? So if they actually do get these licenses, which the news at this point of time says yes, but I still think, like, I've heard that before, and back then it wasn't the case. But that would be major for Q3, the end of Q3, but also the continuation into Q4. So that would be major, but ultimately we still have to kind of see whether that actually plays out or not. And if we take a look at the higher time frames right here, like this is the daily time frame, but on the 4-hour time frame you can actually see it more closely. We're getting some bearish pressure, all right? You can see some fair value gaps and some gaps to the upside. What I usually like to say, and I think this is very often overlooked, is that, fair value gaps and gaps in general are normally seen as imbalances, right? So that the price actually has to fill those up, which is very often the case, right? I would say in like 8 of the 10 cases, that's the case. But the whole reason that a gap comes to exist, right? So that's either a fair value gap or some sort of a gap between sessions, is when there is momentum excessively in one direction, all right? And there's a lot of bearish momentum excessively towards the downside right now. Now we are at support, right? This level right here at 163.5 is support. That's the bottom of the daily trend, but also the 236 fib, and we also have some fair value gaps right here at 160. So for now, I would actually say it's most likely that NVIDIA is going to be holding that. NVIDIA is still an amazing company. It's a relatively strong support level, and equities in general are still doing fine. So if we're talking about NVIDIA, and what I expect on the short term is that we'll be able to hold that, and that we will also be able, from that major support level, to get a move up to like 175, 176, 177, which is the main price target and the main resistance we have right now. However, I briefly wanted to talk about my favorite buy area for NVIDIA, which is lower, right? Now, at this point of time, to make it clear, I don't expect us to drop down into that, but I think the likelihood of dropping down into that in the next half year, in which we have a lot of fundamental things coming out and a lot of things can change, I think it's very interesting, and I think it's good to be ready for that. But that's a level around $150, all right? That's a major demand zone at this point of time, and it's at this point of time also further strengthened by the 382 fib, the 3-day trend right here. But if it takes a little bit longer, the weekly trend will catch up and be there, so maybe that's even better. 30-day rolling VWAP, and a fair value gap we created back in June. So if we drop down into that level, like I said, short term I don't expect that, but the moment we do, maybe we get some bad financial data this week with the inflation rate going higher, and then we could still drop down into that level as well. So be ready for that. For now, I would say stability between 160 and 175 is more likely. But I'll keep you updated on this. So if you're interested in more NVIDIA updates, consider subscribing. For now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.